Why, hello. I may or may not be recording this at my job right now because it is so dead and my boss is not here, so I brought my microphone in. Yeah. So we're going to talk about Kingdom Hearts because I recently beat Kingdom Hearts 4. 4. Wow. Not yet. Not Kingdom Hearts 4 yet. Kingdom Hearts 3 I beat. I recently beat this the other day, and it made me kind of recontextualize the entire series and kind of just think about my opinions on this series because it's a fascinating video game series. It really is. And it's popular, obviously. But I want to talk about my perspective on the entire series and kind of somewhat individual games. I'm not going to go into detail each game, but I have an interesting opinion on this series, I think. So, and that requires me to talk about my history with this series, which is always fun. So, when I was very, very young, like probably 10 years old, maybe 11 years old, I remember my older brother's friend bringing over Kingdom Hearts and playing it, and I didn't really understand what I was looking at, but I remember looking at the cover of the box, or the case for the game, and I was so fascinated by it. It was like, because anime stuff was so foreign to me for the most part. Like, I was not super into anime aesthetic things. A JRPG was not something that I was used to seeing. So seeing this like foreign concept to a game with Disney characters was strange. It was interesting. But one thing that was cool about the back of the box, which I still think about to this day, it's very like dreamlike and serene looking. Like the like Sora's just kind of looking up, and there's like faded Disney like screenshots in it. I think it is so weird looking, and it gives this kind of like whimsical sort of magical vibe to it, and like serious but kind of like sentimental vibe, which yeah, we'll get into in a little bit. But after that, I didn't really play Kingdom Hearts. I remember seeing commercials for it and thinking the music sounded cool because they played like, I don't think it was Simple and Clean. I think it was Sanctuary, the second game song. I think that played in a commercial once, and I was like, what is this game? And then there was like Disney Channel's like little ads they did for the game when Kingdom Hearts 2 was coming out. And that was like prime time. I watched cartoon channels, so I think I saw a lot of that. I've known this for a long time. I remember knowing that Jesse McCartney voiced a character in that game. I just have always known that knowledge. So it must have probably been taught to me by Disney's little promos for the game, Disney Channel. But for years I knew they existed. And when the internet was kind of bigger and I spent more time on the internet, people are huge fans of Kingdom Hearts. Like, it's impossible to dodge the talk of Kingdom Hearts in the video game communities online. Everyone loves those games, but it was never really my thing because I was never really into Final Fantasy games or JRPGs in general. I was into like some RPGs, like Paper Mario I was into as a kid, and the Mario and Luigi games. But something like Kingdom Hearts felt like it would not appeal to me at all. Like, just something that I just would not care for. So I didn't really play them. But one of my friends in high school really liked Kingdom Hearts, and me and him had a very mutual respect for each other's video game opinions, I guess. I'd recommend him games, and he would most of the time recommend me games. I was actually mostly probably recommending him games, now that I think about it. But we would talk about games, and he actually convinced me to buy the Kingdom Hearts collection when it came out. Was it 2013, the 1.5? I was pretty excited because I wanted to play the series, so I got that collection, and I played through Kingdom Hearts 1 on that collection, and I really liked it. I was not like incredibly impressed. I think back to it now, and I think I'm more impressed with the first game now than I was when I originally played it, which is kind of funny. We'll talk about that a little bit, but I really liked this game. It was surprisingly good, and it was a game that I was trying to think of how to word this. It's a game that I really genuinely think I would have loved as a kid, and if I loved it as a kid, it would have really changed like my opinion of video games and art styles and storytelling. Like, Kingdom Hearts is an influence on people. regardless if you like it or not, it's influenced a lot of people's interests and a lot of people's interest in possibly art or video games in general. It was a lot of people's first JRPG game. It's a lot of people's first, like, this is going to sound stupid, more serious game. Like, serious in a way where it's like it's got equiptables and it's got level ups and there's like a lot of things to consider in Kingdom Hearts 1 when it comes to combat and just like stats and numbers and stuff. A lot of people grew up, like the generation before them might have grown up with something like Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 6, which a lot of people will say is one of their first games that they took more seriously. You know, you have to consider numbers and health and mana and all this stuff. And I think that is the thing for Kingdom Hearts with a lot of people, which is great. I mean, that's a great thing to have. I think mine was more Paper Mario, but even Paper Mario is pretty simple. But I played, so just for record, I played Kingdom Hearts when I was 18 years old. Like, I did not grow up with this series. This is a series that I got into relatively recently in the grand scheme of things. Well, that was quite a few years ago now, but it still, I played it when I had like a seasoned brain in video games. I was analyzing these games as video games, you know, with their designs and their balancing and their storytelling and their character interactions and stuff like that. And Kingdom Hearts 1 is very simple. It's a very, very simple game. It is simply about a boy traveling to Disney Worlds to fight off the darkness and save his friends from the darkness. And it's so simple and easy to understand. And the message at the end of the game is really, really potent and nice. And it comes together really well. And Kingdom Hearts 1 is just really good. It just really is super good. It's got my favorite combat in the series. Spoilers. It's so much fun to tactically plan your fights because there's way more... it's a lot stiffer than a lot of the later Kingdom Hearts games. So dodge rolling and using magic and attacking feels a lot more deliberate and like thought out when you're actually battling. It's fun as hell. It is really, really fun. And some of the worlds don't super hit. The Deep Jungle and Halloween Town especially are some of the worst in the series in my opinion. But the ending is great. Some of the final fights are unbelievably good. It's just got a really good energy to it that I really appreciate nowadays. And it's funny because I think I was like into it, but I was into Kingdom Hearts as like a collective, like a whole. You know, I was gonna get into the entire series. So this was just the first game to me. But I didn't realize how much it would change in the sequels, and I didn't realize how much I would value the original after the fact. So I played Kingdom Hearts shortly after via an emulator, and I like Kingdom Hearts 2. And I think at the time I might have said it was my favorite, but mulling over it now, it is definitely not my favorite. And a lot of people like Kingdom Hearts 2, and they don't really blame Kingdom Hearts 2 for some of the Kingdom Hearts bullshit, as people would call it. Kingdom Hearts 2 is when that all started. I can tell you with a clear brain, no doubts in my brain, Kingdom Hearts 1 was made with the potential of a sequel in mind, maybe. It was made where it was like, you know what, this is good on its self-contained story, we like this idea, that we like these characters, we're gonna make this game, and it's gonna be like, you know, the magnum opus of these ideas we have. Not really going into crazy amounts of extra stuff. Maybe, you know, obviously most creators have other things planned, extended to their universe planned, and Kingdom Hearts 1 kind of leaves off on a cliffhanger, but not really. It could be interpreted in different ways. You know, it's very ambiguous. Everything in Kingdom Hearts is very strangely ambiguous, at least in the first game. Like, they just live on like a random ass island, and they talk about like leaving a world, and you ride like a low poly gummy ship thing around. It's so vague and strange. But the sequel is thinking about the future of the games, which is okay because at that time they had the sales and they knew this wanted to be a franchise. And if you watch the video that's been getting a lot of traction on my channel, the one about The World Ends With You, I tend to like self-contained stories. I think I appreciate those more than like franchise living lore fests, I guess you could say. Kingdom Hearts 2 feels like it knows it's going to be something more grand. It's going to be something more like, expansive. Like, they introduce a lot of characters in Kingdom Hearts 2. 13 characters in Kingdom Hearts 2 immediately. And they introduced new villains. They introduced, like, concepts to the original villain in the first game that were definitely not supposed to be a thing. Like, Ansem, Seeker of Darkness was supposed to just be a guy seeking darkness, but they gave him, like, a whole story. Like, they gave him a reason. I don't know, it's just so strange. It feels, when you play Kingdom Hearts 1 and then 2 and then maybe look back at 1, you might think, like, wow, why did they, like, it's like they're just taking the concepts of Kingdom Hearts 1 and making them more story driven in 2. It's strange. I think I haven't played much of Chain of Memories. I kind of skipped Chain of Memories because I didn't really like the combat system. But I know the general plot of Chain of Memories, and I still think Chain of Memories is still kind of when stuff gets a little little off the hinges, I suppose. But 2 is a lot, and near the end of the game, you end up feeling like this is going to go on for a while. And I'm already 11 minutes into this video. I haven't even talked about Kingdom Hearts 3 yet. So, I like Kingdom Hearts 2. Fun gameplay. That's when the bullshit starts, though. No doubt in my mind, that's when the bullshit starts. And I do think that Kingdom Hearts 1 has better combat as a whole. And I ended up using more of the resources in Kingdom Hearts 1 that I had. I never used a summon in 2. Just putting that out there. If I have the screenshot still, it'll be on the screen right now. It said I had 0 summons used in Kingdom Hearts 2 by the end. And the 0 summons, my favorite summon was Chicken Little, because I never used him. Isn't that cool? Chicken Little was my favorite because I used him 0 times. I think that's funny for some reason. I feel like I kind of rushed through Kingdom Hearts 2. I don't know why. Maybe I wasn't enjoying it. And if that's the case, it's probably because of the differences between it and 1. And I played some of the spin-offs. I don't think I beat too many of them. I mean, I beat Birth by Sleep. I beat Dream Drop. I did not beat 358 over 2 days, and I did not beat Recoded. But I have most knowledge of what happens in these games because Kingdom Hearts loves to recap, by the way. And don't feel bad if you want to play Kingdom Hearts 3 and you haven't played the others. They will make sure you know what happened. Always. They will always. If you got the rhythm game, you'll know what happened in the last games. It's insane. But I genuinely liked Dream Drop Distance. That game was really fun. And Birth by Sleep was a little more of a slog, but I enjoyed it for the most part. The only problem with that game was I played it like on the PSP originally, but then my PSP broke, so I had to like try to play it on the collection when that eventually came out, and I don't think I like got very far. I don't remember how that worked, but I did beat that game eventually. I don't know on what console, but I think it was on PS3. I think my friend helped me beat it, but regardless, it was okay. It wasn't as good as Dream Drop in my opinion, in terms of gameplay. And so I meant to say, after 2, I was not interested in the story anymore. Like I said, the bullshit started and I could totally see it. And 3 wasn't out when I played 2, obviously, but I was under the impression I knew where this series was going to go. It was going to go into very convoluted heights, and I was just going to lose interest, and there was going to be way too many characters that I was supposed to give a shit about, and I just wouldn't. And that's what happened. And it feels like almost like Homestuck in a way. Like, there was a point in Homestuck that I really enjoyed it because it was decently simple and kept things pretty grounded for the most part and had some fun ideas. And then at some point it got way too obtuse. But it's weird because I always felt that was when people started to like it. Was like, oh, people tell me that Act 4 is when Homestuck gets good. And I'm like, that's when I don't like Homestuck anymore. Like, Act 4 is when I stopped liking Homestuck. It's strange because most people do not have that opinion. And I think most people say Kingdom Hearts 2 is the height. And Kingdom Hearts 2 is when it gets really good. And I'm like, I think Kingdom Hearts 2 is when it gets really sloppy. And I think it continues to be sloppy after Kingdom Hearts 2. And like I said, I like Dream Drop, but it is not as cohesive as Kingdom Hearts 1. It is there's so many weird gimmicky ideas, and the story is, at that point I was like, I'm not even paying attention to this at this point. It's just, stuff is just happening. Yen Sid stuff, Donald Goofy, whatever. Stuff is just happening. But yeah, I after I played Kingdom Hearts, those games, I was kind of excited for 3. I mean, I was kind of in the hype, like everyone was excited for it, so I was interested in what they were going to do. Story-wise, I just don't care. You know, one thing about the story that I'm going to get into when I talk about 3 some more, I don't really buy the relationships in Kingdom Hearts. You know, the best relationship in Kingdom Hearts is Mickey and fucking Riku. The rest of the characters, I don't buy their relationships. I do not buy the characters in 358 Over 2 Days and Birth by Sleep. Those like trio friend thing they keep doing. I never buy their friendship because their friendship always boils down to them talking about how good of friends they are. I think there's probably more value in 358 Over 2 Days because you see them become friends, but it only takes like 20 minutes for Axel to start being like, we're best friends, man. And it just feels weird and unnatural. I'm not going to like point any fingers because there's probably a lot of writers on Kingdom Hearts staff, but it feels like it's written by people who don't know what a friendship is. And it just feels unnatural because I know it's supposed to be feeling natural, but it's not. It's not at all. And it's weird because there's some really interesting commentary they could make especially with Kingdom Hearts 3, which I'll save, but it only works if the friendships are established. Birth by Sleep's friendship, don't Terra, Aqua, and Ven. Yeah, who the fuck cares? I did not care for them at all, and I don't think their friendship was already established before the game even started. So they're supposed to write dialogue that's like, oh, we have to show that they're friends, so we're gonna have to write dialogue that's like them being friendshipy with each other. It's a joke. It's literally a joke. They are talking about being friends. That's it. And then they separate the entire game, and near the end they fight together and something. I just don't buy it. I just never bought it. There isn't enough content in those games and enough candid, real feeling dialogue for me to believe these characters are friends. I just don't. And even Sora, Riku, and Kairi, they're a little bit friendly with each other, but it feels so forced and weird. And it just doesn't feel natural. And for a series so routed in those friendship relationships, I just never gave a fuck. But so going into Kingdom Hearts 3, we'll deep dive Kingdom Hearts reference, deep dive into Kingdom Hearts 3, man. It was not great as a whole. If you want the TDLR, is that it? Too long? No, too long. TLDR. I always say the actual wording of that. I always say too long didn't read, not the actual abbreviation for it. But if you want that, I didn't love it. I don't think it's bad, but like most of the games that came before it, I think it's sloppy, and I think it relies too much on Kingdom Hearts 2 nostalgia in the gameplay department. I mean, I think it's weird that they established so many cool gameplay ideas before 3, like in Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop, because I think Dream Drop has a really good system in place, and I've heard Recoded is pretty good with that too, which is weird because I feel like it was what do you call it? It was because of the control schemes of like the PSP and the 3DS and the DS, I guess. But I think they handled it well, and I think if that was incorporated into the combat of 3, it would have been really cool, but it wasn't at all. And it's pretty much just like 2 again, and I don't love 2's combat, I think, as I said before. But Kingdom Hearts 3 is okay. For one thing, I didn't play the what do you call it? Is it Phantom Pain or the Ground Zero, the 2.8 thing? The thing that came before Kingdom Hearts 3. I didn't play that, so the game starts up so abruptly and weird. It's like you're just in Olympus all of a sudden, and I'm like, okay, what? And there's so many people that didn't play. I know the point was when they made those PS4 and PS3 versions of the games to make sure everyone plays them. Like this is basically like, we want you to play these games so you're caught up for 3. So here's everything for a stupidly cheap price. Please just play these games. And I think a lot of people still didn't play them. I think a lot of people still just played Kingdom Hearts 2 and was hyped for 3 and played 3, and they'd be so confused because it doesn't make any sense on where it starts. And they give you some recap, and they try their best, but it's just the subject to the type of game it is. It's going to happen. But yeah, so some of the Disney worlds aren't great in 3. I'm not going to go into crazy detail because this is mainly just kind of a broad idea of how I think about this series. Some of the Disney worlds in 3 aren't great. I don't really love. I hated. Okay. the process of me, you might be thinking when I started this video, you just beat Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, did you not get this on launch? I did get this on launch, and I was playing it, and I was somewhat enjoying it. I wasn't hating it. Then I got to the Pirates of the Caribbean world, and then I was hating it. Then I was genuinely hating it. That world sucks. Easily the worst world in the series, in my opinion, and it just doesn't work. I don't understand. That game is so gimmicky. Kingdom Hearts 3 throws so much shit at you constantly, and it expects you to care about it all. And it's like, if nothing's fleshed out, I'm not going to care about anything. And it doesn't feel like any of it is. It's like, there are so many aspects to the Kingdom Hearts series that I end up not even considering, especially because I end up playing on standard mode, which, in my opinion, I think should be the standard mode. I hate the fact that everyone's like, well, you didn't play it on critical. And I'm like, what? Why would I have to play it on the harder difficulty to get a satisfying experience? Like, why isn't this balanced around standard mode? Why isn't this balanced around all modes? It feels stupid. So I just remember not even, like, you know what's funny? Did anyone ever bother checking the abilities on the additional party members they get? I never do that. I always feel like, oh, it's fine, they'll just do whatever. And I never check those things. And you get like a lot of them in Kingdom Hearts 3, and it's just weird. Something about Kingdom Hearts 3's Disney worlds feels so forced and weird, and I just wasn't for it. I think at that point in the series, the Disney worlds are just dressing or like obligation at some point. I remember I kind of liked the Monsters Inc. world. I thought that one was pretty inventive and fun. I remember the Toy Story one, as memed as it is, was okay. It was a little jump all over the place to find out where you need to go. But that one was all right. The Frozen one really sucked. That one was pretty bad. Tangled was okay. But as you can see, I like, you know, it's funny. Like Alice in Wonderland world. I don't know what else is in Kingdom Hearts 1. Some of the Kingdom Hearts 1 worlds, like Agrabah, those worlds are really fun. Like really, really fun. And I think there's a lot of cool moments in those worlds. Or I fucking love Monstro in Kingdom Hearts 1. That's a great world in my opinion. That's a fun place. Yeah, I don't know. Kingdom Hearts 3 just doesn't really stick the landing on any of them, and that's kind of like that's a good way to describe Kingdom Hearts 1 or Kingdom Hearts 3. It doesn't really stick the landing on like anything, like at all. Like it doesn't stick the landing on the gameplay. I think it's way too simple. It's way too like just mash and press triangle sometimes. And I know that's like the meme about Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 3, you do that because you are completely invincible during the animations of all your finisher moves. So you just do that and you'll like dodge most moves. Only the final like boss and the second to final boss actually made me block. I literally did not know you could air block until I got to that final boss, which is so funny. I legit didn't know you could do that, and I didn't need to because it was so fucking easy. And it's not even like, it's okay to be easy. It just doesn't challenge you at all. It basically establishes that if you mash X enough, you get finisher moves, like the big like carousel thing. And the carousel things are basically a screen wipe. So it's like, just mash X. It's rewarding you for mashing X. And like, it rewards you for like using magic, like sometimes. Like, it's like, if you use a fire in the midst of your mashing X, you get like Fire or something, like, or Fire for whatever it's called. And it's like, okay, that's cool, I guess. It encourages you to use a little bit of magic. But even then, it's still just, it's like nothing. It's so lame and boring, and I barely use the summons. I just thought Wreck-It Ralph was funny looking whenever he came out. I tried to beat Xehanort with the summon, but it didn't work. It was stupid. Hold on, let me get a drink. Lots of talking about Kingdom Hearts, you know. I'm parched. But yeah, nothing really sticks to landing in Kingdom Hearts 3. I feel like most of it is pretty sloppy, and as a whole, after beating it, it's like a mid. It's a mid tier. It's not as bad as some of my least favorites in the series, like 358 over 2 days was pretty bad. But it's probably close to, maybe a little bit lower than Kingdom Hearts 2. I don't really like Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 2 is like fun gameplay wise, has some decently designed worlds and some decently designed bosses, but yeah. And so, oh yeah, I was talking about so I stopped playing at the Pirates of the Caribbean world for about a year, and I beat it like slowly. Like I remember just trudging through it, and I was exhausted after that world. I was like, you know what, I'm just putting the game down, fuck it, I'll play this at some other point. Big Hero 6, I don't give a fuck. I was like, I'll do this some other time. And only recently did I start playing it again because me and my friends were like memeing about Kingdom Hearts, and I was like, I should like beat that game. And like some of my friends had never seen it before, so they're like, oh yeah, we should play, like you should play through that like on Discord. And I was like, oh shit, hell yeah. And it was a train wreck. That Big Hero 6 world also sucks. Probably the second worst one. Big Hero 6 World also did something that I don't like, and they do sometimes in Kingdom Hearts, but they usually don't go over the line. I get it. Like, they want to expand the universe of these Disney worlds because it would make more sense if the characters are in it post movie. So, like, you know, in Monsters Inc., Boo is with Sully, which, I mean, kind of a little lame when it comes to the ending to Monsters Inc. It's like, oh, what happened? It's up to you. Well, unless you play Kingdom Hearts, then there's a definitive answer. And these things are not meant to be canon. I don't think it really is that big a deal, and I don't think Nomura's like trying to rewrite the stories. But the Big Hero 6 one kind of rubbed me the wrong way. They basically took a character death and like brought them back, and it only screams Tetsuya Nomura does not like to write death in his series. He doesn't. He really doesn't. Every time a character dies in Kingdom Hearts, they come back at somehow. Like, there's a big emotional character death for Axel in Kingdom Hearts 2. Oh, spoilers, I guess. And I probably should have warned myself before saying that. Whatever. And it doesn't really matter because he comes back anyway. It's like a big deal and like a big moment, and it's like, oh shit, like this character was evil at one point and he's learned, and we have to use consequences for, and then he comes back later, and now he's like super important. He's like one of the main characters, and all I can think about is like he was popular, that's why he's the main character. It just feels so forced and stupid, and I hate it. But yeah, it feels like someone on the team, Tetsuya Nomura, I don't know, someone was like, well, that was kind of sad in Big Hero 6. We're going to write it out of it. We're going to make it happy again. We can't have our series be sad. It's so lame. It's so lame. I don't like that. I think that's a little too far. That world sucked anyway, and they had a huge city that they just populated with nobody. Just 0 people, and it's like, it's huge and it's just nonsensical. It's like the ocean thing they did in the Pirates world. What is the point of that? It's so much development time and space. Like, you could spend it with so much more interesting areas. And that's the thing too. I think Kingdom Hearts 3 feels like sparse in terms of content. Not like it's big. It's bigger than most of the other Kingdom Hearts games, but something about it felt like lesser than a lot of the other Kingdom Hearts games. I guess maybe the worlds weren't as robust, or something about them felt lamer. I don't know. The Disney worlds are not very good in that game, which sucks because that is a big part of Kingdom Hearts. And when you don't care about the story like me, or don't care about the extended story, I'm booking on that stuff for me to stay interested, because in those individual stories in some of the Disney worlds are really cute and charming. But in 3, they suck. They really do suck. And they kept sprinkling in the Kingdom Hearts characters into those worlds, which is nice. I think that's a better way to incorporate the main story into the Disney worlds, but it's not like handled super well in 3. I don't know. It's a step in the right direction, but not handled incredibly well. It doesn't stick the landing. Weird. But the game doesn't really completely open up to its story until the very last, like, 4 hours of the game. At that point, as I said, I'm not very interested in the Kingdom Hearts lore and its story or whatever, but man, the ending was fucking weird. I just don't care for it. I get what they're trying to do. It's easy. I can see you. They're trying to make this emotional ending to a series that people have been waiting so long for. And I'm sure some of the scenes got to people. I know one of my friends was saying that he like cried at some scene, and I was like, I think that's extremely silly. But yeah, I guess I could see that if you've been following the series for so long and this is like a big emotional thing for you. It's incredibly hammy and stupid, and just, in my opinion, isn't earned at all. Like, these things that they do near the end of the game where they talk about like the friendships between the characters and these connections and all this vague stuff that they're trying to work into this, I just don't care. Like, I have no interest in the characters' relationships, and I don't buy it. Like I said, I don't buy their relationships. So when you have a big emotional moment with characters like Ven, Aqua, and Terra, I just don't care about them enough. I don't care about their relationship, and it didn't like there's like a whole thing with like Aqua being in the realm of darkness and nobody looking for them. But that wasn't established until Birth by Sleep. So, and even not even Birth by Sleep, it wasn't established till like later. So it was and she's like all upset that nobody came to look for her. And I'm like, I didn't even know you were in here. And Sora probably didn't either. And the only one is like Mickey, but Mickey never mentioned it before one writer on the team decided it was a cool plot point to put in the story. So it doesn't feel earned. It feels like jacked on for the sake of drama or emotions or something. I don't care. It's stupid, and it made no sense to me, and I just did not care for it. And then Xehanort, who is the antagonist, I always got this air of like just evil from him. Like he was just the evil guy who wanted to use Kingdom Hearts for like selfish reasons or something. Very vague motives, but you finally get his motives at the end of the game, and it's like some like annoying like villain being like, I just wanted everyone to be equal, you know, and I just wanted to like have my friend back or something. Stupid. I'm not even describing this well because I'll be honest, I didn't 100% understand everything that was happening, and I just didn't care for it though. It was I played most Kingdom Hearts games, and I've experienced the story in pretty much every game, and yeah, I'm not like devoted to it, but I think I deserve to have I think I deserve the rightful opinion of like, how should I word this? I've experienced the games fully. I've experienced all the main stories of the games. I understand what happens in all the games. Why didn't I feel those things? Why didn't they hit me the way that the game seems to think it'll hit me? It's because I haven't devoted the emotional energy to it. Well, it should do that for me. It should be buying me into that, but it's not. It never has. And it's sad because I think that's a big problem with the story of Kingdom Hearts is unless you like, I don't want to say force yourself, unless you like are into it because you want to be into it, it's not going to get you into it. I think most people, especially people who, I guess it depends on the kind of stories you like, but I like nuanced, more slow stories that don't have like a ton of characters going on. Yeah, that's a preference, but there's nothing going on in Kingdom Hearts. Maybe I would have liked an individual relationship in Kingdom Hearts, you know, like the relationship between some characters or something, but I didn't even care for that. I didn't mind the relationship between Donald, Goofy, and Sora, but it just never feels, it feels so forced. It never feels natural. The little like laughing things where Donald would be like, that's our Sora, and Sora's like, what is that supposed to mean? And does like a really slow, way over animated pose where he like puts his hands on his hips, and they all laugh, and everyone laughs, and it's like, what just happened? Like, this isn't natural. This feels weird. It feels like, again, it feels like somebody who thinks they understand how social interaction works, but that's not how it works. And I know it's like translation stuff too, but there are games that have done it better. Final Fantasy VII Remake does it better, way better. And it's like, that game is made by very similar people, and it's way better in terms of character interactions. Like, what is Kingdom Hearts' excuse? It feels like aliens. They feel like literal aliens. It's weird. That's a pretty standard opinion of Kingdom Hearts, I'd say. I'm not really breaking any ground saying this series is a little silly and a little weird, and I think it's, in the perspective of people who haven't played the series, it comes off like that. And I want to say that there is substance in the Kingdom Hearts lore, and there is probably a lot to go in on it, but I never bought into it because I feel like it was never confident in itself, and it always wanted to just do more or just please fans, this is a great example of when you're hyper focused on doing that, you usually will lose stuff in the process. Kingdom Hearts really did feel like it was being pieced together as it was going on with like Scotch tape. Like, it never felt cohesive, and there are plenty of plot points I'm sure people could point out that just never get brought up again. And I remember explaining something to my friend on Discord after I beat the game, and I'm actually going to bring it up right now because I remember his response, but I don't remember exactly what I said. But it was something I was confused about, and the response was funny. Let me see. I said, oh, okay. So I gotta talk about this. I almost forgot to talk about this. That is one of the funniest things. A lot of people make a joke saying that if you haven't played the mobile game, you won't get the full experience. It's kind of true, but the way they incorporate the mobile game into the third game is so fucking funny to me. They literally there's like a move you do. Okay, so there's a place called the Keyblade Graveyard that been in the series for a long time, probably since Kingdom Hearts 2, I think. And the Keyblade Graveyard is like just a bunch of dead Keyblades, I think from like an existing war or something. And then in Kingdom Hearts 3, it's established that Keyblade Graveyard are the Keyblades of former Keyblade wielders or something, which are the characters that you play as in the mobile game. So when all the Keyblades come to life, you mash X, and people's usernames come up on screen as you mash as you mash triangle. People's usernames from the fucking mobile game in like a big story-driven moment in Kingdom Hearts. It was so stupid. I could not think of a funnier way to incorporate that. Like, I don't know. It feels so genuinely like, God. I don't even need to explain it. I just hope that's really funny to people that they actually put in like Sausage Man 69's name when you mash triangle. And yeah, that's how they incorporate the mobile game for the most part into Kingdom Hearts 3. And it's so funny. And I was thinking like, well, this Keyblade Graveyard was written a while ago, like back before this mobile game was probably even conceived at all. And I was like, so what? Did they just like plop in the mobile game character? Like they were just like, oh, well, the Keyblade Graveyard could be the mobile game characters. And it's like, doesn't that just feel like you're kind of piecing this shit together while you go on? Like, it feels so strange. And like my friend said, don't overthink it. Which I think is a great response to most Kingdom Hearts things. Because if you do overthink it, you'll probably just setting yourself up for disappointment because there's not much there. But yeah, did I enjoy Kingdom Hearts 3? Kind of. I think as a whole, Kingdom Hearts is a cool series that does some really interesting things. But I do genuinely think the first game is when it shines the brightest, and I think ever since then, they're in this impression that it needs to be a big franchise and needs to sell like crazy. And even if it doesn't need to sell like crazy, they want to please fans. They want to make sure fans are happy, which is nice, and that's a nice sentiment. But sometimes it takes, at the risk of simplicity, and they want to make sure everyone's happy. And there's just this disingenuous to it sometimes that just feels like it doesn't know what it wants to be, and it isn't really true to itself. And I don't know. That's why I really appreciate simple stories, and why I can't really appreciate something like Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts. Final Fantasy is different. I think Final Fantasy has self-contained stories in each of their games, which helps you relate to it a little bit more and get more invested in those specific characters to each game. Kingdom Hearts is a little bit more of a mixed bag, a train wreck, if you will. But yeah, if you haven't played Kingdom Hearts, I highly recommend the first game. The first game is awesome, and I really want to replay it one of these days because I just genuinely love that game. And I think it's kind of understated how different that game is from the sequels. Like, it's similar in some ways, but it is its own experience, and it really does feel like a natural upgrade from how JRPGs were before, and like it's like a 3D JRPG, and it's cool. It's very, very cool, and I don't think there's a lot of games like Kingdom Hearts 1. But yeah, if you liked Kingdom Hearts, please let me know why you like it and what your interests are in it, because I'm genuinely interested. I hear a lot of people complain and like Kingdom Hearts, and sometimes I'm always wondering where people find these connections to Kingdom Hearts that maybe I didn't have. I didn't grow up with it, like I said, so I didn't play it as a young age, but I could see Kingdom Hearts 1 being a game I would have really loved as a little kid, and maybe Kingdom Hearts 2 being one that I would have liked as well. But then I could see, as they kept coming out, me dropping off of it or getting a little too distracted by the main stories. But regardless, I hope this was fun to listen to. This is actually pretty nice to record. I'm just like sitting at work and has this microphone up to my mouth. Interesting. Anyway, we'll see what I do next time for a video. I hope this was a fun listen. So I'll talk to you guys later.